Welcome to All Things Moore County, Moore County's weekly radio show highlighting the many facets of the Sandhills. That includes real estate, lifestyle, community and neighborhoods. And now, from 4 Properties, here's your host, Bill Sahadi.
Good morning. Welcome to All Things Moore County. We have a show today all about the Roy Firestone, a one-man show coming up on Saturday, the 16th of July at the Sandhills Community College at 7:30 p.m. We are actually going to speak to Roy at the beginning of the show, and then speak with Paul Murphy and Chris Dunn, the Executive Director of the Arts Council of Moore County. Roy is a compelling speaker. He's got a lot to share with us. So let's speak to Roy and get his take on the upcoming show. Hello, Roy.
Hi.
Hey, this is Bill Sahadi from All Things Moore County. How are you?
I'm great. How you doing, Bill?
Doing great. I am glad I had a chance to speak to you, and we're excited that you're coming to Moore County to do a one-man show with your friend Paul Murphy at the Sandhills Community College.
Well, first of all, let me also say that I know the area very, very well. I know Paul very, very well. In fact, I not only know Paul, I know his young men and women in his family, all of whom are extremely talented and probably should be superstars in the music business at this point, all of them. But I also love Paul as a human being, one of the great people I really have come to know and love. And I know the area very well. I know Pinehurst very, very well. So it's going to be great for me. I have a sister who lives further down in North Carolina, but I love coming to the state, and I'm really going to love doing this show, which we're going to talk about right now. Yeah,
it's going to be on Saturday, the 16th of July. It's sponsored by the Arts Council of Moore County, and a lot of people, me included, because you and I were both born in the same year, we have very, very strong memories of a lot of the things that you did with ESPN, the up-close Primetime show, the interviews that you did. They were iconic. They were so iconic, in fact, that you were also cast in the movie Jerry Maguire.
Right.
With
first of all, thank you for that memory, but I'm still doing it. In fact, I'm going to be doing a series on ESPN beginning in September called GOATs, Greatest of All Time.
No kidding.
We interviewed 16, almost 20 different athletes. Let me just throw a couple off the top of my head. Dr. J, Martina Navratilova, Jerry West, Dennis Rodman, Isaiah Thomas, on and on it went, talking about their life and times and what it was like growing up to becoming who they were and still are in some cases. We even have Kate Ledecky, the swimmer, who's still winning championships and titles. As of last week, she won more. So it's going to be on in September. I'm also doing a show for the University of Miami called GOATs. It's a regional version of that, and we interview all the legends at University of Miami football. That includes people like Jim Kelly and Bernie Kosar and Michael Irvin and the coach Jimmy Johnson you see on Fox News. So I'm still doing a lot of interviewing. I'm not on ESPN on a regular basis, but I love interviewing. Yeah. I also love what you folks are going to see in Moore County when I come to perform on that evening.
I'm glad.
It's a full show. Yeah, it's a full show, which we're going to talk about.
Yeah, I'm glad you said that, because when I first heard you were coming here, knowing what I knew about you, I thought, this was going to be like a symposium. You're going to be up on stage, and you're going to be sharing stories with the citizens of Moore County, some of your recollections and reflections and this and that, but that's not what the show is.
No, it's not only not what the show is, it's almost the opposite. There is some storytelling within the show about my experiences at ESPN, but it's very musical. Yeah, I like to think it's very funny. I do about 30 different celebrity impressions, and I've been doing this for a long time. I just appeared on the Dan Patrick Show. By the way, this is all on YouTube. Yeah. If people want to check it out or go to my website, royfirestone.com, they can see what I do. But I have been a celebrity impersonator and humorist and writer for as long as I've been a sportscaster. And in fact, I opened Las Vegas with Smokey Robinson and Lou Rawls.
Is that right?
I have done shows with Loretta Lynn. I have done shows with the Doobie Brothers. So I've had kind of an eclectic life, and maybe throughout this show, maybe you'll drop in some clips and some versions of what I do, so we can talk a little bit about that as well.
We're going to do that. We're going to drop in some, and we're going to put this show together so that it gives people a really broad-based idea of your repertoire. What did you do? Did you evolve after you were a national interviewer with ESPN? Tell me about the whole process that got you into the music aspect, or the comedy, or the impressions.
It's funny, Bill, because the truth is I've been doing stand-up longer than I've been a sportscaster. And it's not a traditional stand-up show. It's more of a variety show. I don't do politics, for example. It's just fun. And I think especially in these tense times, a show like mine, if I may say, is kind of a soothing type of show. It's funny and it's entertaining. There's a lot of video clips in the show. I do a bit on the Beatles. But I have been performing for about 44 years. And I've played the Improv here in Los Angeles. I have played Catch a Rising Star. I've been on David Letterman, and Jay Leno, many, many shows. And I've been on the same stage many, many times with Jerry Seinfeld and Arsenio Hall and Jay Leno, and on it went. They know me for years. I took a shot at stand-up. It wasn't really my thing. But I tell you what I really do. I remember the days of variety artists, people who could do a lot of different things. And this show is kind of a focus of all the things I do musically. I sing, as I mentioned before, in my regular voice, and I also sing in voices as eclectic as Sammy Davis Jr., Tony Bennett, Frank Sinatra, Smokey Robinson, the Bee Gees, Neil Diamond, on and on it goes. And we do a whole section in the show where I do a kind of a spoof of Casey Kasem, and we count down great artists of the 70s, 80s, 90s, and beyond. And it's a lot of fun. And to be able to play on the same stage with the great Paul Murphy, and again, people in this area in Moore County know Paul as not just a pastor, but as a beautiful, wonderful human being, and also his musicianship. And he's going to be on the stage playing saxophone and keyboards and all kinds of stuff. It's going to be a lot of fun. But I do have a long history doing this. This is not like some fly-by-night thing while he's taking a shot at doing this. If the truth be known, and I have a CD out, a jazz album out that's done very well. If the truth be known, I think that people will be pretty shocked if they're not expecting what they're going to go for to this evening, and I hope pleasantly surprised too. I really do.
Tell me, how did you and Paul Murphy hook up? How did you get to know each other?
This is a tremendous story. Well, again, I'm not sure if people that are listening to this know Paul or even know his family, but I was doing a show at Pinehurst. And the show that I'm doing it right now, only it's more expanded. And I went in the morning. I was having breakfast, and Paul was playing maybe it was lunch, but he was playing in a beautiful area. He plays so beautifully. He's a jazz player, and he plays standards. Everyone in his family sings, and I didn't know who he was. And I walked up to him. And I said, "Boy, I really love the way you play." Oh, he goes, "Hey, Roy Firestone." I said, "Yes." He goes, "What are you doing here?" One thing led to another. He said, "I have a couple of boys and a daughter, and of course my wife sings too. Maybe you'd like to hear it." I said, "Sure." I thought nothing of it. And in the morning when I was checking out, I got a cassette, and it was a little audio cassette.
You're dating yourself with a cassette.
Yeah, really.
You're dating yourself.
Yeah. I listened to this. A few weeks later, I had forgotten about it. So what is this in my briefcase? And I said, whoever this is, pretty good. This is really great R&B and soulful and beautiful music. Then I looked on the cassette. It said Murphy family. Went, I put one and one together and made one and two together. And I started thinking. I'm saying, this is undiscovered talent. I called Paul. I contacted him. One thing led to another. His young kid at the time was probably 8 or 9. His name was Green Murphy.
Yeah.
Now, again, I don't know if people know the story of the Murphy family, but this is like the Jackson. I mean, I'm not trying to exaggerate, but I mean, this is sort of like a Jackson family in that the whole family performs and sings and really well. And we got very close to having a TV series with Green Murphy here in Los Angeles with Motown, Mount Motown Productions. So it goes back that far. We've known each other for probably, I would say, at least 12 to 15 years. And boy, can he play.
Yep.
And
Yep.
I think people are going to love the show because it's going to be enhanced by the great Paul Murphy.
Yeah. Paul has been a guest on our show over the years. His family, they have been guests on our show. Paul has been on from a musical background, but he's also been on as a civic leader here in Southern
Yep.
Pines and as a pastor at the Trinity AMZ Zion Church. He's
Right.
quite a guy. Man,
his wife is a fabulous singer too, and they did a piece once about Martin Luther King that they wrote, a song about Martin Luther King.
Yeah,
it was so emotional, so beautiful. She could really. She reminds me of Vanessa Williams, that kind of voice.
wow.
I mean,
you could be the Murphy family PR man.
Well, I really do. I mean, I put my neck out because I really believe we have basically a real good shot at getting a series. We may still get a series someday. You don't know because all the people. In fact, one of the women that was involved in promoting this was with Michael Jackson. She helped discover Michael Jackson. And I'm not trying to say that Green or his brothers are the Jackson family per se in terms of their kind of music.
Yeah.
But I think they're really talented, really gifted, and they're all in production now. They all write and produce their own music now, as you may or may not know. And Paul continues to be a civic leader and a pastor, and he's a wonderful human being. And
Yep.
I'm very, very touched that they even can include me in this, and that Paul is willing to be part of the evening because it's going to be extremely musical. And I think the Murphy family, will be in attendance too. And you have all the deals there, I guess, for the tickets and stuff like that, which we'll talk about in a few moments. But
Yeah.
I promise you, if the folks come out for this evening, they're going to have it only on the periphery is it about sports. Yes, sports is a vehicle in the show,
Right.
but we do a bit about Glenn Campbell, and I do a tribute to Glenn Campbell, and as I said, the Beatles, and we do many multiple singing impressions. And it's very visual. It's like a video show, too. So I think people will really be pleasantly surprised.
You know, Roy, being born in 53, having the experience you've had, it puts you in a unique position where your eyesight may not be as good as it was 30 years ago. But today,
That's
your
for sure.
your vision your perspective is great. You can see the whole playing field. And so you have a lot to share from your experience and all the people that you know. And
Sure.
it sounds like part of it will be a visit down memory lane.
Very much so.
Okay, so I'm getting it. So it's going to be music. It's going to be some storytelling.
Yes.
People will get a good idea about your perspective and probably will be their perspective as well, where we all sit looking at the world we live in. And I'm glad you mentioned that we're not going into politics, but you're going to try to do some humor about it. I hope you bring a lot of humor because we need it.
Oh yeah, we do. And the thing that I want people to know is it's kind of a throwback kind of show, Bill, because it's like a look back at the way the entertainment business used to be.
Yep.
You know. I salute, as I mentioned before, I salute everybody from Tony Bennett to Sinatra to Smokey Robinson.
Wow.
And then we do more on the sides of superstardom. People like the great singer B.J. Thomas and Johnny Mathis
Raindrops
and Gordon Lightfoot and those kind of people.
Love Gordon Lightfoot.
And, yeah, we all do.
Wow.
By the way, just as a quick sidebar, I was reading an article the other day that Bob Dylan, of all people, said that his favorite of all time
Gordon Lightfoot.
songwriters, Gordon Lightfoot.
That's right.
Yeah. So Again, I really, and I've written 4 books, and I may do an essay piece about the beauty of dogs in a kind of a humorous, light way. This past few months, I think, there was a guy on ESPN named Scott Van Pelt. Some people may know him.
Yeah.
And he did an essay at the end of the show about his dog that unfortunately he had to euthanize. It was very late in his life.
Yeah.
It was the most well-received and powerfully responded to piece I think I have seen in 20 years. And it's because, you know what I think, Bill? I think people with the troubled times that we're in, the polarization, they want something to share that doesn't have anything to do with politics, doesn't have to do with opinions.
Right.
And dogs, I really believe this. And I may do this piece in the show, I'm not sure, but I think dogs can bring us together.
Yeah.
If you could talk to anybody, I don't care if it's a person who leans right or leans left or center, if you could talk about their dogs and why they love their dogs, it suddenly changes their whole mood. And people talk about their dogs because it makes them happy. It lights up their soul.
Yeah.
And I wrote a book. I'll tell you a very, very quick story. After we lost Kobe Bryant, the basketball player, it was so tragic here, particularly in Los Angeles.
Yeah.
I was despondent because I had known Kobe and I've interviewed Kobe many times, and he was a friend of mine, and we did a lot of things together, and it was pretty devastating. And I said, I need to pull myself out of this because then COVID had hit right at that point, just about a month later. So I said, maybe I will adopt a dog, and I did adopt a dog. And I named him Kobe. In fact, he's sitting right next to me right this minute. He's a black lab.
No,
I wrote an essay.
Labs,
it's on YouTube. I wrote an essay about it.
Okay.
I got more hundreds of thousands of views and responses, and I decided to write a book called Kobe and a Boy Named Roy. And it's a children's book. It's for little kids. And my sister, who is a great artist, she did the artwork.
Huh.
So we have donated all the proceeds to animal rescue, Labrador rescue in this particular case in Los Angeles. And I signed the books. I've done national TV about this. And so that's also part of the show. It's really an evening of that kind of, you don't see much anymore these days. It doesn't take positions necessarily. It's an evening of just flat out entertainment and sharing fun and warm stories. But it's also, I think, it's going to surprise people because there's a lot of video magic, because we do a parody of the Beatles where I play Paul McCartney on the Ed Sullivan Show. I can't describe it better than that, but people will see that when they come to the show that evening.
Yeah, you watched the Ed Sullivan Show as a kid growing up, didn't you?
Yeah, I sure did.
Yeah,
in fact,
too.
That's
Jackie
that was
Gleason,
really
Ed
I
Sullivan.
became the Beatle fan I am.
Yeah.
That's how I became the Beatle fan that I am. Everybody who ever saw that opening February 9th, 1964,
right,
they're all saying, a lot of musicians said that was the turning. Billy Joel, for example, says that. Bruce Springsteen. These people all felt that when they saw the Beatles on the Sullivan Show, it changed their life and changed the trajectory of their life. And that's what I do in this show is a parody, because I do the impressions of Lennon and McCartney and George and Ringo, Ed Sullivan, Rod Serling, all of them within the framework of this show. So I think people get a kick out of it. I really do.
It sounds like a lot of your show, In Between the Lines, is in many ways the antithesis of social media today.
Oh yeah, well, I'm not big on social media. I have a little bit of a presence, but not much. I don't really particularly like Twitter. I think it's divisive, and I find it to be harsh. People who are anonymous in their complaints about themselves or their lives or whatever.
Yeah,
I think it becomes narcissistic. And when I was at ESPN, I did a lot of things, and people would get nasty about certain pieces that I would do.
Right.
But boy, I decided that I'm going to let my social media profile, maybe it's stupid, I don't know. I'm going to just sort of keep it limited and not try to. I find that a lot of social media is very narcissistic, and I think people have lost their touch one-to-one and people talking. I did a piece one time about the telephone. I think. Because of smartphones, we forget what it was like to have a phone wired in our house. When the phone rang and you had a family,
right,
and you everybody would say, who was that? No one does that anymore. We know who that is because their name is on the phone.
Right.
And even the phones have changed because when we had a community phone in our house with family and brothers and sisters and mothers and fathers, everybody shared that experience. They shared the phone. There was good news and bad news. It was on that long wire. They had a phone on the wall as I did. And people would wrap their little wire around their hands and their arms, and they'd be talking to someone they loved or somebody there would be good news and bad news. But now with smartphones, it's become so solitary.
Yeah.
And then in many cases now with young people, they're not even using the phone at all except to text.
Yeah.
So there's not the art of conversation has even devolved, I would say,
right,
from what it used to be, where people could talk on the phone at least.
Yep.
Now I think it's a text or two. They even shorten a text. My kids, I have grown kids now. They barely could talk on the phone.
Right.
It's all text me.
Right.
And
right.
Anyway, I got off the subject a little bit, but social media has done some wonderful things, but social media has done some destructive things to our society, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And this show is an evening that's sort of a throwback. It's pretty. I think it's fairly innovative, I may say, and it utilizes a lot of the things that people remember. Music being one, and the legendary artists from our era for another, and also my experiences in sports. There've been so many experiences, and of course we talk about Jerry Maguire in the movie that I was in.
Sure.
I'll tell you a very quick story. After the movie came out, I forgot that I was even in it because I thought it was going to be, edited out, that I'd be on the cutting room floor, so to speak. And I was in England about a few months later, and I'm at a reception, and I get a tap on my shoulder, and I turn around, and it's Paul McCartney. And he goes, "I know who you are." And I said, "What? You don't?"
Yeah.
I said, "Paul, you don't know who I am. I know who you are." He goes, "No, I know you because I've seen the movie." I said, "The movie?"
Right.
"Oh," I said, "You mean Jerry Maguire?" He goes, "Yeah, you're the guy who makes him cry." And that was the scene, of course, with Cuba Gooding Jr. And he said,
right.
What's your name?" And I said, "My name is Roy." He goes, "Don't make me cry, Roy."
Oh, wow.
Well, that has become my catchword almost. People saw Jerry Maguire. They think that all I ever did on my show was make people cry, which is not true. But I'll take it because people remember my show. And I wrote my second book, and I called it Don't Make Me Cry, Roy. I get it in airports. I get it in barber shops. I get it in the markets. You name it. People every day of my life say, "Don't make me cry." So this is going to make you laugh. And by the way, it may also move you to tears, this show. We do a thing about Muhammad Ali. We do the thing about, as I said, about my dog, about the beauty of dogs, and it's emotional too. But I can tell you this, it's not the kind of show you see everywhere in this country at this stage. It's not a polarizing show. It's
right.
not one kind of music or another kind of music. It's just an evening of variety entertainment. And I'm just grateful that, that Southern Pines is having me out here to do the show at the center, and I'm really thrilled to be able to do my whole thing. Especially, Bill, because COVID really limited a lot of performers for a long time, and just now is the thaw out. People are finally getting back out, and this is one of the very first I've done. So I'm very excited about it, and we'll have a great evening. I hope you're going to get to come.
I will, and the show is called Roy Firestone, a one-man show, except the one-man show is going to be joined by his friend Paul Murphy. It's going to be Saturday evening, July the 16th at 7:30 at the Owens auditorium at the Sandhills Community College. And, in wrapping it up, it sounds like the tapestry of information and entertainment that you're going to be bringing and weaving in front of the audience is going to be very memorable and something that people won't forget, because it does sound like it's going to be fresh and different.
Well, thank you for that, by the way. I like to think that it's a shared kind of show. It doesn't appeal to one or another demographic. We do a whole thing at the end about Muhammad Ali, which people are going to just be blown away about an elderly gentleman and Muhammad Ali. and it's a very, I think it's a strong message. It's a message that I believe in, and that's uplifting people again, uplifting people to feel good about themselves and each other. I think we need to find a way to find the beauty in people again, and with all the tensions that we have in this country right now, I think it's a great thing to have a show that makes people feel good and feel positive and upbeat, and again uplift people. So between myself and Paul, I think they're in for a great big evening, and I can't wait to do the show.
Well, we are looking forward to seeing you in a couple of weeks, and we will do everything we can to get the word out. And I'm going to wish you well and look forward to meeting you. And you're a compelling guy. You're a compelling speaker. I'm going to go speak to another compelling guy, Paul Murphy, here in a few minutes. And we're going to compare notes. Roy, thank you so much for all your time.
Thank you, Bill. It was great to be on the show, and I hope you'll come out, and hope all the folks who are listening want to come out, too. It's a great evening, I think, of entertainment and warmth and humor, and I think people have a great time. I really do.
Thank you, Roy. Roy Firestone, a one-man show coming up on July the 16th. Thanks, Roy.
You remember them when the west wind moves upon the fields of glory. They played in the sun, in its jealous sky, as they played in Phoenix gold. Full of passion and pain, they rendered their own story. Made the sacrifice, made the effort twice, 'cause they wore maroon and gold.
Yeah, hey, we're back with All Things Moore County, and we had a real nice conversation with Roy Firestone. And in this set, we're actually going to be speaking with Paul Murphy, who was the subject of a lot of that phone call. Actually, Paul, you've got a big fan in Roy Firestone.
Well, yeah, there's a mutual thing going on there.
He told me how you all met, and you're the reason, you're the catalyst for why he's coming back here. I guess he's been in Pinehurst before with you.
Yeah, when I first met him, I was actually playing out at the hotel there, and I remembered him asking about a particular arrangement. I believe it was Moonlight in Vermont that I had just kind of just done an instant Just Add Water arrangement on the spot. And but he was impressed by that, and he asked that I'd send a little recording out to him, which I did. But at that time, our youngest son,
8 or 9, he said.
Yeah, had just gone down to Atlanta to visit his older brothers, and they called, said, "Dad, why didn't you tell us Green could play guitar, can produce?" And he had written this song and gone into the recording studio. And anyway, I sent that down there, and Roy called back asking, who the band was. And I said, and that's our little son there.
Well, somehow or some way, the Arts Council of Moore County has done it again. Chris Dunn is here with us. Chris, you were on in March.
Yes.
You were here talking about the art lecture series.
Yes.
And you had Ellen Burke on,
did.
who was she gave me an epiphany as far as watercolors go, if you remember.
Oh, that's right.
I now understand why I like watercolors.
Yes.
She helped me understand that, and I never forgot that.
That's great.
So you guys are sponsoring?
Yes,
this
we're presenting
event?
this. Actually, Paul's wife, Sharon, is the one that brought this to our attention. She's on our board.
Okay.
And she said, hey, Paul's playing with Roy Firestone, and we can get that here. And this was during a time I was away from the office. I was on a sabbatical for 5 months. And Catherine McCrae, who's our assistant director, she worked on this with y'all a lot. And then COVID came in and postponed this from this past February to now it's going to be July 16th.
Right. Well, you have ticket sales are going on. You've got VIP reserve seats, general reserve seats on sale. It's the 16th, Saturday evening at 7:30.
Yes.
And What do people need to know about getting tickets? Where can they go?
It's real easy. Go to ticketmesandhills.com.
Yeah.
And if you don't see it on their homepage, just Google Roy Firestone and it'll pop up. It'll be the only one that pops up.
Yeah.
And you can pick your seat out where you'd like to sit. The VIPs are right down front. They're
Right.
the first 3 or 4 rows. And then the general seating is everything else. And if you've not been to Owens Auditorium, it's great seats no matter where you sit, actually. I like sitting in the back. The sound goes right to you, so I like that personally. But we're just looking forward to a great show. I've seen clips of Roy playing, and I'm floored by how he can manipulate his voice to be somebody else singing. It's really amazing.
He did a pretty good Paul McCartney on the phone
really?
call. Yeah, he did.
I didn't know he could do Paul McCartney.
Well, Paul McCartney knew him from his stint in the movie Jerry Maguire.
Yeah.
And Don't Make Me Cry.
Yes.
And Roy sounds like a very evolved man who has seen a lot, knows a lot of people, and he's in his own way, he's giving back with his perspective.
Yes.
So the tapestry of the show is not conventional, is it, Paul? It's going to be a little different.
Yes, he's going to use quite a bit of video footage and incredible humor, some poignant moments as well, as he's kind of telling the stories and weaving the songs in between. And I was with him, I believe, a fundraiser for Elon, and
that's right.
Also down at Kiowa Island,
right?
And just fantastic opportunities. I think the thing that kind of grabbed me most was he asked about my influences. And I said, well, there's this guy called Lyle Mays. I said, he's with this group, Pat Metheny group. And I said, I really like the way he plays piano. And I didn't think that Roy, would even heard of them. And he said, oh, that's interesting. He said, Pat Metheny was my college roommate, University of Miami. I said, well,
is that right?
Oh, yeah. So that really blew me away in that moment. And so we've been at it ever since.
You also have, Chris, you have a lot of big time sponsors.
We do.
Let's talk about them.
We definitely have Duke Energy. They've been a sponsor of the Arts Council for many, many years.
Yep.
Mostly with our Heart and Soul of Jazz concert that we used to do at Pinehurst Resort.
Yep.
COVID stopped that.
Yep.
But they've stayed with us. And then we've got Lynn Huttaff's Pinehurst Realty Group,
right?
A colleague of yours.
Great lady.
So she has been a great supporter of the Arts Council for the past 5 years. And then we're partnering with Sandhills Community College. They are bending over backwards to make this work for us. And then we also have a little bit of support from Rick Norland, who's a member of the Arts Council. He wanted to do something for the Arts Council, and we put him on this. He says, sounds like a great idea. So we've got some great sponsors and great entertainment. And I remember there was a story about what Roy said about when he met you in the Pinehurst Resort. And I don't know if a lot of people know your father, but that's how Branford Marsalis met your father. Yes. Your dad was playing piano at the Pinehurst Resort.
Right.
That's been a mainstay for the Murphy family, is have somebody playing at the resort. Do you still do that?
Yeah, actually, my nephew Gary Brown plays there most of the time, and I get to go in on Friday mornings when
cool.
He takes a break then, and so I get to go in and tinkle a little while. So
that's been going on a long time.
Yeah, I think it was back in 1984 when I started.
When you started,
right?
Was your dad doing it before?
Yes.
Oh, geez.
Yeah.
Well, it's just almost kismet that you're able to be in this concert. And the title of the concert, and I didn't tell Paul this until now, is called a one-man show. Problem is with that is a little tongue-in-cheek.
Right.
He does more voices than one man. It's not only Roy's voice. And then we also have Paul on stage. And I have to ask this because I'm not sure what other than, will you be playing sax and piano in places, or
both?
Okay, I wanted to make sure.
Not at the same time.
Well, you might be able to do that. Left hand and the piano, and well, that doesn't work. Trumpet, you can do that, but not a saxophone.
I have to confess, when I heard that Roy Firestone was coming, I automatically went back to my mindset of the late 70s and the 80s into the early 90s.
Oh, yeah.
Of how I knew him, how a lot of people knew him as a very thoughtful interviewer. He had there was a social. It was more than just an interview with him. There was always a philosophy. There was something deeper, and so he was very interesting. I think he was probably Bob Costas before Bob Costas was Bob Costas, and so that's what I was expecting.
Yeah.
Where he would be speaking to the crowd, but that's not at all what they're going to say.
No, it is a variety show in terms of the types of music you're going to hear, the stories that, like you said, he's going to weave through.
Yep.
And the one thing he's known for is getting personal with his interviewees. And part of the show is going to have moments like that, too, from what he's told me.
Yeah.
I've not seen the show. I've only seen snippets of it, so I'm looking forward to it just as an audience member.
Paul, did he tell you that he was going to be doing a show with ESPN going forward, talking about the GOATs, the greatest of all time?
Right.
Yeah.
Some of the people he mentioned, what a lineup.
Oh, yeah.
Iconic athletes and game changers in their respective sports.
Yeah.
That's going to be something.
Oh, it's going to be. Yeah, and actually, some of my favorite interviews, I guess, the ones he did with Andre Agassi, but as musicians, the Burt Bacharach and the David Foster. Those two interviews just kind of blew me away.
Is that right?
Because he was able to pull, I think, one of the points as he was interviewing Burt Bacharach, he kind of revealed something, that there was this other guy that was on the bus or train that at the same time it turned out to be Leonard Bernstein. But
oh, wow.
Yeah. So that I don't know where he gets all this in-depth information about these individuals, but he really goes, as Chris said, he really goes deeply into a person's history and pulls out some wonderful nuggets and really celebrates the people involved.
Yeah, that's the impression I got by talking to him on the phone. It was mesmerizing.
Yes.
He's not shy.
No, not at all.
I don't think he's going to have stage fright or anything like that.
No, I think he enjoys just being on stage and getting into the stories he's telling. I look forward to all of that.
Well, we're going to play a clip or two on the show so people can get a real good idea of the new Roy Firestone, or the Roy Firestone that they did not know.
This is not. He's not doing interviews on ESPN. He's
right.
performing for you in a great variety show.
Well, this is a Sinatra crowd, right? But I thought, what if Sinatra was still around in the 90s and stuff, where he wanted to perform for younger crowds? Hi, Kathy. And I thought, what would it be like if Sinatra wanted to sing a Village People song? It would still sound pretty good. Sinatra doing the Village People.
Young man, I was once in your shoes. I said, old man, I once had the blues. I know there's a place you can go, and it's even wonderful if you're hanging out in the Warren Disco. 1, 2, 3, 4, YMCA. YMCA.
Hi again, everybody. I'm Casey Dixon, and we're counting down the last 50 years of music on American Top 40. All the music you loved and some you despised. Let's start with the fabulous 50s. Back when air was clean, the year was 1957. Gas was 28 cents a gallon, a time for lovers dancing close, and a good 10 years before everything went into the crapper. Here's Johnny Mathis and Misty.
Look at me, I'm as helpless as a kitten up a tree. Never knowing my left foot from my right, my heart from my love. I get misty and too much in love.
Guys, I appreciate you coming in. Paul, I know you're looking forward to it.
Almost definitely.
Again, the show is Saturday evening, July the 16th. at 7:30. It's at the Owens auditorium at the Sandhills Community College. Tickets are on sale at ticketmesandhills.com, or they can purchase tickets in person at the Campbell House. Sponsored, obviously, by the Arts Council of Moore County. And so thanks to Duke Energy, Lynn Hutap's Pinehurst Realty Group, and the Sandhills Community College for making this possible.
Oh, yes.
And I wish you guys the best. It's going to be a great evening.
It will be.
Thank you all. This is All Things Moore County.
Ladies and gentlemen, there is a difference between success and happiness. And I really do think it's stark and distinctive. Success is getting what you want. But happiness, which is far more elusive, is wanting what you've got. Remember that. I know a lot of successful people who aren't happy, but I also know people who strive to be happy with what they have in their lives. And I hope that all of it happens for you. Both happiness, success, all of it. This song, then, before we say goodnight, is dedicated to those who adore life and celebrate life, because no matter how hard life could be, that's life. I say that's life.
That's what people say. You flying high in April, you get ducked on in May. I know I'm never gonna change my tune. When